If you find yourself having to re-explain to Claude when using chat, like it forgot who you are and what you're doing, and you're still guessing at which of the three tools within Claude to use, chat, Cowork, code, by the end of this video, you'll know how to do both. I'm Bernadette Gold. I'm a solutions builder using AI to grow and scale my business and helping you do the same. Let's simplify it. Claude is like three rooms in one house, and each room does one job. People get confused because they're standing in the wrong room for what they're trying to do, or they don't know there are three separate rooms. So let's walk through them slowly. Do you want Claude to think with you, or do you want Claude to go do the work? Your answer is what determines which part of the tool is best to use. Chat's the room where Claude thinks with you. When you open Claude in your browser, this is where you find chat. It's where you plan. Before you build anything with AI, you go into chat first to think it through. What am I actually making? What are the steps? What's the smartest way to do it? You walk through a decision out loud, you shape an idea, and you reason it out with Claude the way you would a colleague or a business partner. Claude goes and researches, talks back, asks you questions to help you get the plan defined and clear. Nothing gets built there yet until you figure out what you want to build. So think about it like this. You've got the smartest person you know sitting across the table from you. In chat, Claude, your thinking partner, doesn't have the ability to go onto your computer, touch your files. What it can do is help you get your plan clear and do simple tasks. That's chat. A lot of the simpler tasks can be started and completed in chat. If you're constantly reintroducing yourself to Claude every time, though, there is an easy fix for that. When you open a normal chat window, do something great, then close it, start a new chat window because you ran out of tokens or it got too long. Claude can't remember what it worked on in the last chat window. So you find yourself explaining from scratch all over again. Totally frustrating. Claude starts every chat blank on purpose. It's kind of like using a brand new notepad every time you work on something. You have no reference to what is in the other notepad. The fix is by creating a project. A project is a workspace inside of Claude that holds everything for one project. And you can stack chats in there where it still has access to all of the files. So think project where you need files for your business, company information, your instructions, all of the chats, all in one place so that it can actually access that. When you use a project, you load those files once, and then every chat that you start inside of that project has memory. It knows what the project's about, it has the background information, and you don't have to keep explaining yourself. And that's done by using what's called markdown files or MD files. MD files carry your specific instructions, the info that gets referenced for that specific project. Whether you're using chat in the browser or chat in the desktop app, you can set all of that up in the chat function. So the work that you've done in previous chats are now accessible. Anthropic gives each project about a 500-page book's worth of material. The higher your Claude plan, the bigger the material you can store becomes. Here's what's also important. When you're not repasting the same long background into every new chat, you actually burn through fewer tokens. So less repeating means you get more real work done before you ever hit a usage limit. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds great, but I don't know how to make those markdown files. And I'm not writing all of that up. You don't have to. Claude will make them for you. In a chat window, tell it all about your project and your background, things it needs, like your brand voice, your business, the way that you'd explain it to a new hire. Just talk. It will ask you questions that you probably didn't even think to answer. It fills in the gaps, and then it will write it all into a clean file that you can reuse and save in that project. You talk, Claude writes it in a format it uses easily, and you save it into your project by downloading the MD file and then saving it back to the project. Now that project has access to all of the instructions, all of the details, and you don't have to keep explaining. The rule for using project in chats is this: if you keep losing the memory and the thread from chat to chat, you should be working inside of a project, not brand new chat windows. And that's what projects are actually for. So when do you leave chat and go use Cowork? Well, you stay in chat until your thinking's done, your planning's done, and there's actual work to be done. The moment it stops being help me figure this out and turns into now go do the work, go build those files, that's your cue to take the whole thing into Cowork. In Cowork, you have the ability to work inside of a project and also build separate projects and bring context over. So again, you don't have to start over. I call Cowork my workroom, and it is a separate room within that house, right? We have chat, that's in one room. Then you have Cowork, that's in the workroom. And then you have code, which is a totally separate room. Cowork is where Claude rolls up its sleeves and does the work itself. Say you have a folder on your computer that holds everything for one client, your notes, their intake form, couple of documents that they sent over. You need all of that pulled into one clean summary you can actually use. In chat, you'd be feeding those in one at a time, copying the answers back out into a file that you could use. In Cowork, you point it to the folder where all of those files are. It reads everything in there, pulls it together, and saves the finished summary right back into the same folder. You don't have to copy and paste. You just tell it what you wanted, and it does the work once it knows that it can access those files. It makes it super powerful. The first way is obvious. It works with your actual files, not a copy that you had to upload into the chat. The second part, and this is where people miss it a lot with Cowork, Cowork remembers because it can read its own folder and all of the instructions tied to that project and those files. Anything you drop into the Cowork folder it has access to, it will have memory and context. So remember those files I talked about building in chat that you want to download and upload into that project, your instructions, your brand, your business, all of that. Take those files, save them into the folder you give Cowork access to, and it will read them before the task. That way, it's feeding both your chat on the online browser and your desktop app in Cowork. Write them once, they feed both parts of Claude. And the way that you write them is like you would any simple step-by-step file. It's a more advanced move, but when you understand how to work with Cowork, you start to create the many different steps needed to fulfill the task that you're giving it. And once that goes into a file, Claude Cowork then can go step by step by step. And you don't have to do anything but tell it one time what you're trying to get done. And that is super efficient. So again, say you're onboarding a new client, you build a set of steps to a system that you're going to repeat over and over. All of the information of how Claude's going to do that is in that folder. Claude checks it without being asked. That folder and that MD file of the steps becomes how you handle each new client. And when you have it in the same folder as your new client information folder, it goes through and pulls all of that together. And that process gets repeated each time. So the big multi-step jobs and the ones you run over and over, Cowork is best for. The other thing Claude can do in Cowork is use your Chrome browser to handle certain web tasks that you do over and over again while you're focusing on something else. Cowork lives within the Claude desktop app locally on your computer. The browser version of Claude can't reach the files that are housed locally, and it can't do all of the things that I just talked about in Cowork, nor can it communicate clearly with the desktop app. So if you create something in your chat from the browser on Claude, you have to bring those files into your desktop for Cowork to use them or for Cowork to access them. I hope that makes sense. Now, Claude Code. It's the one you see and hear most videos talking about. It's where software gets built from the ground up, where apps are made and tools are made, the kind of things that developers actually make. It's where vibe coding happens. That's where you describe an app in plain words and then you watch it get built in Claude Code. If you're just starting with Claude and you have a one person business, you're not making an app, leave code alone for now until you understand how to work with AI better. You don't need the code to change simple things like HTML, CSS, JavaScript files either. If you want those things changed for your website, Cowork can write those just fine. When it's small bits of code for easy use cases, it is so much easier just to use Cowork because then you're not confusing things. Claude Code is really at its best when you're building whole pieces of software, advanced automations, and things like that. So the question you need to ask yourself is pretty simple. Do I want Claude to think with me or do I want Claude to do the work? Think with me, plan it, decide. That's chat. Keep it in a project so it remembers. Go do the work within my files on my computer. That's Cowork. Build a whole app from scratch. That's code. The way I use it in my business is like this. Every new thing starts in a chat, usually inside a project folder, so I don't ever lose the thread of what I'm building. I plan things, I argue it out, I reason it out, I get the approach right. And then when it's time to actually build, I move it into Cowork. That's where my research, my content creation, my scripts, my brand files, they all live in a folder on my computer. I don't want to give Claude Code full reign over my computer. My computer is my workhorse I use for my entire business. So rather than giving Claude full reign using code, I stay in Cowork. So if you're worried about that for security reasons, when you're in Cowork, you don't have to worry about that. Everything has an approval step. In my case, that way I'm checking everything and the approvals have to be done by me before it moves to the next step. It doesn't go work autonomously like you hear people talking about. I'll be making more videos like this one to try and simplify how best to use AI for your business to grow and scale. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. But let me know in the comments if you have specific questions about how to use it to grow and to scale. Try the things I taught you in this video and let me know in the comments too. Does it clear up why you've had to reintroduce yourself every time?